Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott. How's everybody today? Tomorrow is the official Thanksgiving today, but because of travel within my family, we actually had Thanksgiving on Monday and all was well. We're all fat and eating leftovers, so life is good. We've taken a little time off this week, so I get to work on some other things that I've kind of been putting off, but it just needs to get done. Today's a good day to do it. It's beautiful outside. It's nice and cool, not hot. Sun is out. I think later today it might get a little cloudy, but I've got some maintenance things I got to do. But one of the things I want to do and feel I need to do is I need to work on some of my cutting tools. This is an ESEE. It's an ESEE 4, which I think is all the knife you really need for something. I don't like big knives. They tend to lose their effectiveness as a knife the bigger they get. With this knife, it's got a fine enough point. It's not overly thick, and it's about the right size. The handle's not too big, not too small. I like the sheath because it's got a steel clip so I can pop it off and pop it onto my different belts. The steel is 1095 steel, which everyone likes. In reality, it's a so-so steel, but it works. And I'm not a steel snob, as it were. I like buck knives. This is a knife that goes on my pistol belt. In general, I don't carry a sheath knife. Most of the time, when I'm out and about, I am using a locker. This is a Benchmade bug out, which I like a lot. It's light, it fits in my pocket well, it's got a good blade. Growing up when I did, which is a generation or two before most people, we still had a lot of outdoors people and still had a lot of the old skills were still prevalent skills of my day as a youngster. And so in general, I don't go under the guise of having a big knife. In fact, when I was in the Army, my big knife was a 6-inch Randall that I carried on my survival vest, and I had it mounted horizontally. And the reason why it was a 6-inch instead of a 7.5 or 8 is that when you're in helicopters, there's not a lot of room and you do a lot of bending and maneuvering, and a knife any bigger would just get in the way. That 6-inch blade was about the perfect size and could do probably everything I needed to do if I was in an E&E situation. In the military, they're really not necessarily teaching you survival per se as much as they are teaching you to escape and evade and get back home. And so in that case, that knife really suited my purpose well. The issue knife was an Ontario pilot survival knife, which had a 5-inch blade, and that's a good knife too. But boy, when you get them from the factory, the edge really sucks, and it takes hours and hours and hours to get it to where you want it. So anyhow, ESEE 4. I'm not overly a fan of some of the ethics of this company. I once signed up for a course in their survival training school, and because right after that I got into the mode of moving and buying property and getting this property set up, I called them up and I asked for a refund, and they said they couldn't do that. And I said, well, can I buy a knife from you at full retail price? And they said no. They said, we'll just credit it to your next class. So they still have my money. I'm not real happy about that, but the Rowan knife is still a good knife. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to remove the Ceracote finish, and I'm getting ready to do that. I don't like this rough finish on an edge. I think it interferes with the efficiency and the functionality of the knife by creating more drag than what needs to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put paint stripper on it, take off the Ceracote, and then clean it, and then I'm going to blue it. And because I have to wear gloves after this step, I'm going to turn off the video and do it. Then I'll come back and show you the later on. But I don't want to, you know, get paint remover either on my camera or on my cell phone. So I'll just show you the end result. The other thing I'm working on is a Martindale #2 Golok. And this is a knife recommended by Lofty Weissman, the guy who wrote the SAS Survival Handbook, and I really like it. I haven't had a chance to really use it yet, but this is what he recommends for a survival tool. And while it looks like a machete, I don't know if you can see, let me get close here, it's actually pretty thick. That's either that's probably 3/16 steel, so that's pretty thick, and it's got an axe style edge on it, and it's maybe about the same weight, maybe a little bit lighter than a hatchet, but this also can operate as a machete and even a digger. So for a survival tool, it's pretty good. So I've added one to my collection. When you get them, they come with a thick varnish on the blade. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to remove that varnish, and then I'm going to blue it. The same thing I'm going to do with my ESEEs. I'm going to blue them, and I'll show you how that goes. But you know, knives are a personal thing. I know people have lots of them. In general, the way I feel about it is, if I have something like this, or I have a hatchet, or I have an axe, then this works just fine. I don't really like an overly thick edge on a knife because you can't do some of the finer things with it. As an all-rounder, something that can do a little bit of both, I like this knife. But again, this is only a 4-inch blade, and you know, maybe a 5-inch blade would be okay. I don't like the ESEE 5-inch blade because it's 1/4-inch thick steel, and that's too thick. It just depends on what you like. But with this blade, if you can see the tip, it's a fairly fine tip, and I like that. That I can do fine work with. So okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing this, and then I'll come back later on when my hands are able to push sensitive electronics again. We'll see you. Alright, well, we're back, and what I did is I used some of this Strippy's paint stripper, and I stripped the Ceracote coating basically from the choil forward. I don't mind it on the handle, and it does provide some corrosion resistance. And then also on my Golok, I did the same thing. It had a coat of varnish on it, and I took that off. I applied some blue. I used Birchwood Casey's Super Blue. It does a nice job. You know, I could have showed you the whole operation, but really, it's just follow the directions. The hardest part was getting the Ceracote coating off of this. It took longer than I thought, and part of it was when they applied the Ceracote coating to this, it was uneven in the thicknesses. There were spots that were a lot heavier than other spots, and so while some spots came off easier, some I actually had to take my scraper and really scrape. And then even on some of the smaller parts, I had to take a little razor knife and scrape it off. But anyhow, I got it done. It's not a, you know, showroom quality bluing job. This is a field knife. And so here it is. Really, all in all, I think it came out nice. You can still see the ESEE logo on it. It's a nice color. It's not blue. It's more like a black blue. But man, having smooth sides on a knife, that's just the biggest difference in the world. I don't like using a knife with Ceracote coating on the blade. I don't mind it on the handle. In fact, I think that may be a good idea, but I don't like it on the blade. It adds friction to the blade, and when you're trying to do fine work, it just kind of gets in the way. So this knife just feels so much better, and I'm gonna, you know, we're funny about knives, and you know, there's certain things we like and we don't like, and you know, but for me, having this knife, I like this knife so much better without the coating. The blade looks and feels a little thinner, and like I said, I don't like a thick blade on a utility knife, and even for a survival knife, I can still baton quite well with this. I just don't like thick blades. I can't do the finer work that's usually what you would use a knife like this for. And even in a survival situation, I still prefer a thinner blade. So what's left is I'm going to put a coat of oil on it, and I'm going to let it sit overnight, and then I'm going to take the oil off and I'm done. Here's the Golok. It actually came out pretty good. It's a little more streaky because the finish on the Golok is not as nice as on this knife, but still it gave me some protection while I was waiting for the paint stripper to work. I worked on the edge a little bit. It had rough grind marks. I took some of those out, and it doesn't have a bad edge on it now, but tomorrow, after I let this thing sit with oil on it overnight, I'll come back with the stone and finish putting an edge on it. Now, this has more of an axe edge than it does a machete edge, and what that means, it's a stronger edge and should last longer. And with this, what's nice about this, it weighs probably in the neighborhood of a hatchet, maybe a little bit lighter, but not much. But I can use it as a hatchet every bit, plus I can use it as a machete. So for a survival tool, for something, I think this is only 13 inches long, it's actually a great tool, and it's not that expensive. I think I paid $24 for the Golok from Martindale. It's a Martindale number 2 Golok, and I paid maybe $10 for a marbles sheath. And so it's not that expensive, but it's a really nice tool. It'll fit inside most people's get-home bags or bug-out bags. Man, it's just handy. So, you know, for me, I can probably do quite well with this combination, because again, you know, I typically use a knife for the finer things, and I use something like this for the coarser things. But it'll work really well with this, and so I feel like, you know, we always have the knife discussions, and you know, when I was growing up, when you went into the woods, you always had a knife and a hatchet. And back when I was a kid, we didn't have stainless steel knives. We had carbon steel knives, and we knew how to take care of them. So that's why I get a little wonky about why we have all this Ceracote coating on there, unless it's a cheaper way to manufacture the knives instead of trying to polish them. But you know, if they sold me a knife with this finish on it and just blued instead of Ceracote, I'd be happy. I'd be happy as a clam. That's not a bad finish. And so, you know, knives are personal. Knives are addictive. I have more than I need. But typically my go-to knives are really what I carry most in the world today is a lockback like this. I have this one. I have one other. I like to carry a Buck 110 Light, which is just a little bit heavier than this, and it does everything I need it to do. I keep a hatchet in my truck. This is in my bug out box, so I don't feel undergunned with this. But this is a nice knife. Again, it's not too big. I wear a size large glove, and as you can see, it's not that big a knife. It's a good size. So that was my big project for the day. Like I said, I'm going to put a coat of oil on these, let them sit overnight, and then I'm going to finish sharpening the Golok, and then maybe touch up the edge on the ESEE, and I'm going to call it good. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Again, it's not hard. You know, I could have done the step-by-step thing, but really it's just read the instructions and go for it. So everybody take care. Stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you out there.